You're listening to the God Stories Radio podcast with Fritz, Mike, and Tina, bringing hope, comfort, and encouragement through the power of the Christian testimony. Listen live on the Mixlr app and follow us on your favorite platform, including iHeartRadio, Spotify, and radio.com. Stay connected with us on Facebook and Twitter at God Stories Radio.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this edition of God Stories Radio. This is session 241. I'm Fritz.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Tina.
Here we are. It is Thursday night.
Woohoo!
Yes. And I'm connected.
Yay! We're so glad you're connected remotely.
Uh-huh.
So I know it's been a challenge, but tell us about your listening situation there, Mike.
Well, I guess the first couple of times Fritz tried to call, I guess my room, after I was all set up and ready to go, the phone calls never went through. And I think last week I finally realized it and walked outside and it worked.
Wonderful.
So right now I'm sitting in the cab of my truck out by the pond in the backyard. What of you?
Wow.
Not such a bad place to be doing God Stories Radio. I think, too, when he walked out in his front yard, there was like a flock of geese or something out there.
That was last week. They have since migrated to wherever they go.
Well, good for them.
Well, that's awesome. How was your week last week, Mike?
Interesting, very interesting. You know, being essential and all, it's one day at a time.
Yeah, I bet that must be difficult because, you know, just from a health standpoint and just from a physicality standpoint, because you guys are busier than ever now.
Yes.
How's it feel to be essential, Mikey?
Well, it's good because the paycheck keeps coming, but you know, I get hundreds of people that walk by me every day, and who knows where they've been. And I pray before I go in. I always pray before I went into work, but now I add that little extra protection from the corona.
Right.
And
Amen.
hopefully it works.
You know it. You know it is. We're about the Father's business. I think we get the extra layer of protection.
I hope so.
Well, I'm glad you had a good week, Mike, even though it was a little exhausting.
How's yours?
My week's been really interesting because obviously I'm having to adapt to not working. So that's been interesting. A lot of emotional challenges up and down with that. But I'm doing okay, and God's given me a task, so that has definitely kept me busy. As a matter of fact, that specific task has kept me busy all day today. Part of the weekend and a prior day as well. So.
Are you going to reveal to him what that is?
I'm thinking it's Matthew.
No, it's not Matthew.
No, it's Old Testament.
No, it's New Testament.
It's not Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John.
Yeah. So, he's just kind of put it on my heart to go through the book of Hebrews right now. So,
okay.
And to possibly share that with others. So, we are looking at possibly posting that maybe sometime this evening.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Mikey, have you done any kind of stats? Got any kind of stats for us?
I do.
Oh, wow, look at Mikey in the truck on the lake. Got the stats.
That's right.
Drum roll.
We have Facebook likes.
All right.
And the first one is David Dostel.
David, thank you. Welcome to the GSR family.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David. Next one was a guest, Mary Carto.
Mary.
Hey, Mary.
I
Thank
love
you.
Mary. Thank you, Mary. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mary. And then the last one, basically, she was a guest a long time ago, Jacqueline Zumba Macalonis.
Macalonis.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you, Jackie. We love you. Good to see you back with us, and welcome back to the GSR family.
Well, thank you all for listening and liking us on Facebook. We love it.
We most certainly do. Any countries, Mikey?
No. Still
That's
at
all right.
9.
That's all right. Wonderful.
Uh-huh.
Fantastic.
I was thinking today that the time that we were down there for a few months that we grew in countries and such. So just waiting for that to pop.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So you got anything, babe? Before we get, I'm going to let you introduce the guest. And I'm so excited about having this guest right now.
I am too, babe, because she's been in touch with us for a little while, and we've had the honor of being able to pray for her, and she's prayed for us. And I know that she has gone through a lot recently in her life, and I'm just so honored that she agreed and said yes to giving her testimony. But she is actually calling in all the way near Amarillo, Texas, in an area called Fritz. Not to be confused with Fritz, producer. And she is a wife and mother and a faithful listener and works in the arena of law enforcement. As a matter of fact, she has been such a faithful listener. She has listened to every single episode of GSR.
Oh, that's it. I got to get the T-shirts made now. We've got about half a dozen now people that are serial listeners.
That's right.
Yeah, really did. Did Robert Herman hear that?
Robert is on Mixler right now. So, Robert,
thanks for tuning in, Robert.
Yeah, so he heard it.
So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest today, Miss Lee Phillips.
Hey, Lee, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm honored.
We're so grateful you said yes. Thank you.
Yes, and I knew that if I didn't right then, that I probably wouldn't do it. So,
well, we're so grateful because not everybody does say yes. And I know that you've been through a lot recently. So I'm so grateful that you are blessing us and you're blessing everybody listening in by giving your testimony. So maybe you can kind of let us know a little bit about your background, maybe where you come from originally, where your folks come from, etc.
Okay. I was born in Kansas. We moved to Texas when I was 6 years old. My dad was a Baptist preacher. Fire and brimstone.
She's a PK.
Uh-huh.
Yes, hallelujah. I listened to some of his, we have them on cassettes. Some people know what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, this room knows what that is.
Right, yeah. So, and I listened to him and I was like, wow, that was harsh.
Yeah.
Very harsh. But I was very fortunate with my parents. We didn't have much. They struggled. My dad always worked and did church at the same time. It was a full-time job, both places. He was only a pastor for a little while, but he always filled in, and we were there every time the doors were open. So I always knew God. I mean, I always knew God. I mean, even when we were in Kansas, they had the old baptism at the lake where, everybody'd go to the lake and they would baptize. Well, I begged and they baptized me in the lake. Of course, I didn't know what it was about, at that time. But So that was a fond memory.
How old were you during that time?
I would have had to have been probably 4 or 5.
Yep, I was about the same age. I was baptized in the ocean.
Oh, wow. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. I've never seen the ocean yet, so.
Put it on the bucket list, right?
Yes, it is on the bucket list. So I've always known God, but I didn't always follow him. I was the preacher's kid, and I rebelled, situations in my life I didn't know how to handle, didn't know how to deal with them, and didn't always deal with them the right way.
Well, you're in good company, Lee.
Well, that's
Right.
good. It's a good thing to know that as people, we're not perfect.
That's right.
I mean, even, that's something that it's hard to confess sometimes, being in the background, you're supposed to look perfect, act perfect, and, but that's not, thank God that he likes for us to be real.
Yes.
Amen.
And it helps other people too, because they know that, hey, somebody else has went through this.
You bet.
So, I want to kind of come to what, is going on right now. Well, let me go back a little bit. My first husband, it was not a good situation on both sides. It was lust at first sight, it was, and it grew to love. And I would have jumped off the Empire State Building for him. God blessed me with 3 beautiful children, whom we all live close to each other now, thank God. And for them, and thank God that he gave me the strength to walk away from that marriage and raise my kids and protect them. And that sent me to go to college. I got my associate's degree in criminal justice. I started looking for a job because it was getting harder and harder with 3 kids, going to college and everything, and I wound up going to try to apply for a jailer's position. Well, they don't just take applications unless they need somebody. So I learned a little bit more about it. So while I'm still in school, in college, I go to jail school also. So I'm going to college during the day, jail school at night with 3 kids.
Wow.
Wow.
And
Talk
thank
about
God
a full
for
plate.
my parents. Yeah.
Wonder
Thank God
Woman.
for my parents. No, I don't know. It was a God thing. That's all it was. He carried me through all that. And with the help of my parents, they were my babysitters, So I got the jail school done. And at the end, I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? I had went and got a car thinking that I would have a job and my car payment was coming due. And the sergeant at the jail that was doing the school, when I came in for class, he goes, I was going to ask you, are you going to apply? And I said, yes, I am. And I didn't even, I knew they had talked to some of them, but they'd never talked to me about it. And so I said, yes, I am. So I did apply, and I got on at that time in Randall County in Amarillo. And as a jailer, and I worked there 3 months, and the position came for Hutchinson County, where I lived. I lived in Fritz, and that's the county I live in. And I was like, well, I don't know. When you get in somewhere and you're learning all this new stuff, and, I was kind of like wandering. So I went and toured the jail, which scared me because it was so little. But I knew that I wanted to be closer to home, and I wanted more of a family life.
About how old were you at this time, Lee?
At that time, that's been about 17 years ago. I'm 50 years old, so I've been there a little over 17 years at the jail now. So it's been a long career. It is my career. Raise my kids, and everything with that, and so then now I had a marriage in between, and I'm not bragging or nothing, because that's just how life goes sometimes. It wasn't the one for me, and I know that now. My last husband is the love of my life. He showed me more love than I can ever imagine. My husband, Billy Phillips, he passed away April 7th of this month. We fought cancer. Before that, he always had a bad heart, but he had more energy than I ever thought about having. And this man, he would get up when I had to work. He would get up and he would fix my breakfast in bed. He would get my uniforms ready, let me go back to sleep, and be my snooze button. He definitely was a godly husband towards me. He treated me like a queen. When we first got together, it wasn't under the right circumstances. It wasn't. It was, I was going through some depression, and I had started drinking, and that's just something I can't do. Yeah. And it doesn't go right with me. And we got together, and I knew that this wasn't, it wasn't the good circumstances, and I knew I had to quit. I knew I had to stop, because what we do affects everyone around us. And I knew that I was leading other people to drinking too, and that's not what I wanted in my life. God was calling me. I mean, we had been going to church. Thank God, my daughter had invited us. It was 2014 when we got together, and that Easter, she invited us to First Assembly of God here in Fritz, and we loved the church, and Billy fell in love with it. And so we had been going there, and I was being convicted. So the drinking had stopped, and God was telling me, you need to make this right. You need to make this right. And we talked to the preacher. It took me 3 times to talk to him, to tell him our whole story, and
meaning about how you guys met.
How we got together. How we got together, and that it wasn't the right circumstances, that we both, got together and was with other people, and that, here we are, we're living together, we're not married, and that I was being convicted. I mean, I would talk to God. I would turn the radio off and talk to God on the way home from work, and just be like, okay, God, I know what I need to do. I know that's what you want. Every time I turned on something, it was about, being married in God's eyes, and living the right, just that was on my heart.
So he was convicting you, basically.
I was under conviction, and we got married, and the pastor, he was like, I'll marry you anywhere. I'll marry you at your house, anywhere you want, I'll be there. And I was like, well, what about the church? And he was like, yeah, we can do this.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And he was like, you just tell me, and we'll get this done. And so the minister and then the song praise and worship leader, he did our music for us. And my kids all pitched in, and my stepdaughter, and they came from Dallas, and it was just beautiful. It was the fairy tale wedding that any woman would want to have.
Wow.
And so we've been together since 2014. We actually got married in 2017, but I considered that from the day we got together, but in God's eyes, 2017. But like I said, he told me when we first got together, he was going to take care of me for the rest of his life. And he did that, even with cancer. And he was having trouble, feeling like he was going to pass out and stuff. And I would wake up and I would be like, you need to lay down. I can do this. And he just wanted to make sure that I had everything I needed, for my day.
Wow.
And, that I was there 12 hours. So if you didn't bring something, you didn't have it, you couldn't leave.
Right. You're not in your profession. You're kind of stuck,
right.
Aren't you?
Yeah. So, but he just, and I would come home and he would have supper ready. And if he didn't, and it was my turn, we'd order a pizza.
Good gravy. I hope he wrote a book or something. I'd like to. I could probably learn a few things from it.
Right. I know. Life is life, and things get in the way, but he never, ever did not get up and get me ready for work until he got so sick he couldn't. And that was very rarely. He still tried to get up and fix me breakfast.
That's a man amongst men right there, as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
It truly is. It truly is. And, I know people had said, well, I don't know why that he has to do that. And, even his own daughter had turned around and said, if my dad didn't want to do it, he wouldn't do it. So he didn't let nobody make him feel lesser than because he cooked or did dishes or anything like that, And he was definitely, a man.
You bet.
He just took,
I think,
he took his job of being your husband very seriously.
He did. And he was like, well, you have your job and I have my job to take care of you. And that's just what he did, and it was hard. He was doing cancer treatments and everything was looking good. It was going to be a lifelong thing. It was incurable, but it was treatable. So they were doing immunotherapy. We were doing good. And then one day when we went in, his kidney levels were skyrocketed. So that was a trip to the hospital, and they thought they could just get him down. And, in a few weeks, we could start doing treatment again. So every few weeks, it was okay, maybe today, maybe today. And then we walk in one day and they said, well, we still can't do treatment because your kidney levels haven't went down enough. And I think y'all need to call hospice.
Mm.
And I'm writing notes down. And when she said hospice and Billy said no, like in a very stern voice, I just sank. I just was like, it was just the air went out of me, and
well, at that point, I guess hospice is just a nice way of saying we give up.
Yeah, and that's what I felt like. I was like, why? We got time. We can do this. We can, you know.
But this is amidst the whole coronavirus pandemic, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
it was. Yeah, and when we started hospice, it was full blown. It took a little bit that day. He was hurting so bad. He was sleeping on ice packs. When I get my medicine in, it comes with those ice packs, and you can reuse them, So I would keep them for him. He would put them in a pillowcase, and he'd put them on the bed and lay on top of them and sleep like that because he hurt so bad.
Oh.
And we were going to the pain clinic, but it still just wasn't, just he needed something more. So that day we left the cancer doctor the day we found the bad news, and I took him to the pain clinic, and I told him he's got to have something more, and explained to her what was going on, and they were awesome. They got us in there right then. She talked to him about hospice some more, and I tried to too a little bit. I didn't want to push, but I knew what hospice was. I had experience with them. So for him to be comfortable, and we talked to him that they can take care of his pain so much better than what going to a doctor and having it, it's just, they can do it right there.
And then too, you and I talked about this as well, Lee. I mean, if he fell down, there was no way you would have been able to take care of him or pick him up alone at home.
No. And that's where it started happening. He started falling a lot. And I was worried, because I'm struggling between work and taking care of my husband, and it got to the point that if I went to work and there was enough people there, I was trying to take off to come home to be with him and care for him. And I told a sergeant of mine, I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know when I need to take, I took my FMLA, but I said, I don't know when to do it. And he said, God will let you know. God will let you know when it's the right time. And I came home, and the next morning I called my captain, and I told her, I said, I need to take my FMLA. I need to. So, and I was off. It was that weekend I was scheduled to work. Well, Saturday night I'm thinking, did I do the right thing? He's getting around pretty good. Well, Sunday morning I woke up and he fell. And I was like, okay, God, I knew I did the right thing, but you're still torn because you don't know what to do. And so, and he was able to help me every time. Thank God he was able to help him, get up. And we finally got him up, and we talked about hospice. His daughter was down here. We had the nurse come in. She talked to everybody, the whole family, all the kids. And so then the Monday after everybody left, we signed up for hospice. And but it was he kept falling, and we'd have to call him, and he got upset with me because he didn't want me calling him.
Right.
And I would have to tell him, well, they're just going to come in, check you real quick, and they'll be gone. It's not going to, it's not going to be hard on you, And he would tell the kids how I was getting on his nerves about eating.
Yeah.
So he was ready for me to go back to work. He kept asking me when I was supposed to work. I guess he thought he needed to get up and fix me breakfast or get my uniform ready,
So how long was he in hospice for, Lee?
It was only about 3 weeks.
Okay.
Only, let's see, 3 or 4 weeks. My days are kind of
Oh, I can imagine.
up. Yeah, it was very hard. It was very tiring. I don't know how nurses do it. I had one patient,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
but,
right.
And I asked Billy, and before he even got, we talked about it when he got diagnosed, with cancer. We talked, we cried. I cried on his lap, and before he got the hospital bed, and I cried with him, and I said, how am I going to do this without you? And he goes, just remember the good times.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the good times. And that's what I've leaned on, and also, one of my favorite verses is Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Without his strength, I couldn't have done this. I couldn't have stood by and watched him die. And I feel it a privilege because some people don't get that chance. Right. Some people don't get that chance to say goodbye. During this whole thing, this pandemic, and, nobody can hardly come over, or they're scared to ask, to come over. And during this time, my sheriff, who I'd worked with as a deputy, and then he came to be my sheriff, to be my boss, but he was my friend. He passed away, and he was going to a call, and he didn't make it to the call.
Wow!
And I watched his service, which was a God thing that they were able to live stream it. Because I couldn't be there with my coworkers, we couldn't be there together. I couldn't even go to the funeral home because I couldn't leave. I couldn't leave Billy's side.
It's just, you had so much going on at the same time, between Billy being sick, your beloved coworker passing away, and then just Billy being in hospice, and the coronavirus. Yeah. And it's like you're combating all these things at the same time, and you can't get the help that you need, probably because people can't come over and support you in the same way they normally would.
Right.
It must have been.
And I watched the service, and I was the whole time I was thinking, I'm watching this service knowing my husband's dying.
Mm-hmm.
But what really touched my heart though was, I tried to reach out, to his wife and everything. And I know they were bombarded. I understand, and when my husband died, she reached out to me.
Mm-hmm.
And she told me, she said, I know what you're going through. And I knew for sure she did, and that was a blessing. That just meant so much to me. And
so an unexpected friendship.
Yes. And we had worked together in the past. So
Mm-hmm.
I know her.
Mm-hmm.
We worked together years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so, this when all this stuff gets over with, we definitely will get together and be able to cry and share stories.
And that's his ex-wife, the mother of his children, right?
No, this is the sheriff's wife.
Oh, the sheriff's wife. I'm sorry.
Wife. Yeah, the sheriff's wife is the one that reached out to me. And but throughout all this, the kids did come over. They were here. They helped me. His daughter, I don't like to say step because she's my daughter too.
Mm-hmm.
But she came down and her family, and it just kind of worked out because my kids have been here every day, the ones that live here. And then when they got here, my kids kind of got like a little break to take care of their family and where they stepped in and helped. And then we all came together, and we were able to have have a service and live stream it. And it was a beautiful service.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so it was just, it's been awesome how much that even through what everybody else is going through, with pandemic, the losing jobs, the not knowing if you should go to work because am I going to get sick? That everybody came through and reached out and in a big way.
Mm-hmm. So it's been a little over 2 weeks now. And how are you doing today?
It's been up and down. It's been up and down. I just lean on God, and I lean on, my family. My kids have been so strong for me. And I know that nighttime is the worst time for me. We were together all the time. He was disabled. So if I wasn't at work, we were together.
Mm-hmm.
And it might have been getting on each other's nerves, but we were together. But for people that were around each other that much, we liked being around each other.
Mm-hmm.
That was just, we got along really well. And it's just nighttime is my lonely time,
Sure.
But it's been a blessing that I've been able to take some weeks off after his death
mm-hmm.
to try and get situated, get, things figured out, because I know, that's going to, me getting up and getting ready for work, that's going to be a big piece of my heart missing.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, you bet.
He would walk me out to the car. He would start my car for me and warm it up and, wave bye to me as I drove off.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
gosh, Lee, I only hope that I become half the man he was.
Yeah, really.
I mean,
I'm telling you,
what an example to set for what a human being. I'm telling you.
Right.
All right.
And
I have a question.
Yes.
All right. Way back in the beginning, towards the beginning,
mm-hmm.
you said that you went to college and you went for criminal law. Why criminal law?
I went to criminal justice. And
right.
The reason I did that was because I was abused in my first marriage. Okay. And what I wanted to do was help women that were abused. And as far as law enforcement and that, you have to really be in a large city to actually do that for a job. And they just don't have it as much in the smaller cities.
Right.
And that was my focal point, And as criminal justice, if anybody would have thought, I would be the last person you would think it would going for that.
I'm just thinking a young woman going to college and picking criminal justice. Wow.
And at one point, my first husband, he had told me we had passed somebody, and one of the deputies was out, with a car, and I said, I could do that. And he said, well, you can't arrest me. And I was like, okay. And he more or less was telling me, no, you couldn't do that.
Yeah.
And, and when I got into it, and it just so happened because when I left him, me and my kids had to go to a shelter.
Mm-hmm.
And I met a wonderful friend. I mean, a wonderful. We are friends today, and I met her while I was in the shelter, and she always had a smile on her face. And I was like, what is she smiling about?
Mm-hmm.
I was not at that point yet. I'm living in a shelter with 3 kids, and my son was in diapers
mm-hmm.
and learning to walk. And they had these cement or, I don't know what they are, but steps. And all I could see was him, busting his head open. And it was just, very stressful. But we became best of friends, and we actually went to school for the same thing.
Oh, wow.
We actually went to college together, and I got my associates. But then after I got my jailer's license, I decided to just go ahead and work in the jail.
Jailer's license. Okay. Oh.
Yeah. So, and, and I would tell the girls, when I would be booking them in, that you can change. You have to, because I knew, because I changed.
Mm-hmm.
You can change if you set your mind to it.
Wow. Probably one of the very few words of encouragement that they got in the jail.
Right.
The Lord probably had you there strategically. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And, just a smile sometimes, just a smile, can brighten somebody's day, even if they don't want it. Just like Nancy would do to me,
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
But I have made some lifelong friends, and
I'm so glad,
Right. Well, thank you, Lee, for doing this. It's only been a little bit over 2 weeks since your husband passed, and you're here on the phone with God Stories Radio. Wow.
Yes. Wow.
But I
want to be bolder, with my faith. And I've wanted to do this from the very first, that I listened. And this was my bold step.
It is bold because there's so many people dealing with death right now with this virus, or just dealing with death on another scale, even if it's not related to the virus, but they can't be with their loved ones, or they're trying to find a way to just cope. And I feel like your story is so encouraging.
It really, really is, man. That is a light at the end of the tunnel if I ever heard it.
Yeah. To be so positive, to be so trusting in God.
And then to hear about her husband in the midst of imminent death being the man that he was.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, what's my excuse? I mean, really. I mean, I just, I'm taken back by that. And that's going to encourage so many people out there, Lee. I mean, this story was so timely, and we love you and appreciate you so much for.
Well, I love you guys, and I appreciate y'all. Y'all have lifted me up in so many ways. Y'all don't even understand.
Well, it did. Well, it keeps us going. It really does. It makes it all worth it.
And
Mikey, I've been praying for you to find a wife. I've been thinking, though, she's going to have to be a trainer to work out 5 days a week. She's going to have to be a trainer.
Well,
so
that's part of my prayer, that she's health and fitness oriented.
So we're going to have to look in the gyms for Mikey a wife.
They're kind of closed right now, so.
No, well, yeah, darn. Well, maybe the home gym.
Well, thank you for that.
I just, again, Lee, I just feel like God is going to bless you for trying to be a blessing to others in the midst of your pain. I think that there's a very special blessing for you in that.
Mm-hmm.
And
I know there is.
And I'm just so grateful and so honored that you chose to share your story here at God Stories Radio. So thank you again.
Well, thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you. And as the word says, when you bless others, God will bless you.
Amen.
Amen to that.
Y'all are a blessing.
Thank you, Lee. Well, Lee and I have a continued friendship that will go on past this show. And we just want to thank her again for sharing her testimony with everybody. And I think that about wraps it up for session 241.
I bet it does. I'm just tickled that...
Fritz, she just took your line.
Well, I was, yeah, that's why I got this deer in the headlights look like right now. Like, what do I say? Wow. So, okay. Well, she wrapped it up for session 241. I'm Fritz.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Tina.
God bless you out there. And thanks everybody on Mixlr that has put up with the internet tonight. I hope you can hear me. Thank you for everything and for hanging out with us. It was definitely worth it. Thank you so much. See you next week.
Everybody stay safe.
Yes. And Lee, stay on the line. Thanks.